It's important to know our history, and I feel like too many people in our generation just don't know enough about where they come from. Queer people wouldn't be able to be out here like we are without those who came before us. That's what we're talking about on a special Pride edition of Make Cinema. And it starts right now. Cool, aloha, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jake, and you're watching Make Cinema, the show where I talk movies while I make art. On today's episode, we're talking the 5 must-watch movies you gotta see during Pride Month. Today's piece is called Love on This Day, and I'll be incorporating illustration and embroidery. Stick around to the end to see how it turns out. June has become a polarizing month as we've seemingly been transported back to a time where the bigots roam free. But the purpose of Pride Month is not only to celebrate how far we've come, but also how far we've got to go. And this year has shown, girl, you better lace up those Nikes, cause it's a long way to go. What's baffling to me about all of this is that we're in 2023, in a so-called progressive country. You know, the land of the free. The latest point the religious right has clung to is save the children from the trans. Corruption. Propaganda. It's disgusting rhetoric. I'm not going to get into it because other creators have discussed it brilliantly, so if you want to understand the extent of the issue, go and watch Leeja Miller's video. I'll have it linked in the description below. Not only are anti-trans bills being proposed and passed in 2023, but anti-queer education bills have been passed in Florida. And continued attacks on drag queens deeply affect trans people. On top of that, an obsession with book bans. What fucking year is this? And the irony of it all is the ones who are the loudest about it are those who constantly preach about how proud they are to live in a free country. They're patriots. Merca. Girl, take a look in the mirror, because book bans and regulating other people's bodies doesn't sound like freedom to me. I'm not here for censorship in any form. If you don't want a kid to watch or read something, unfortunately, if they want to, they're going to find a way. When I was in 6th grade, my parents banned me from reading The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman because the author is atheist and they had heard that it was full of anti-religious messaging. In reality, I just wanted to read it because the movie had come out and I loved magical, mystical stories. I don't totally remember how this came up, but I told a teacher that I wasn't allowed to read the book. So she walked over to her class library and then handed me a copy of The Golden Compass. I read that bitch cover to cover during recess, and I never told my parents. I love teachers. She saw I was being censored, knew the material wasn't harmful, and said, "Let me let this kid live his best fantasy for a moment." Kids are filled with wonder and curiosity. They usually lead with the purest of intentions, yet adults infuse their fears and worries into children where there shouldn't be any. I don't blame my parents for not letting me read that book because they were just trying to protect me. But books don't turn you gay, and they also don't turn you into an atheist. With all of that said, I've got some great pieces of queer art for you to watch this weekend that I think are important for queer people and allies alike to watch. Number 1, Stonewall Uprising, directed by Kate Davis and David Heilbroner. Starting with a necessary watch, Stonewall Uprising is a documentary released in 2010 that discusses the events of the Stonewall riots and what living as a queer person in the 60s was like. Gay sex was illegal. Illegal. You could be denied a job or an apartment just because of who you loved. Let me put this into perspective for you. This was 60 to 70 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, within the century. Here's an excerpt from the History Channel. The Stonewall riots, also called the Stonewall Uprising, began in the early hours of June 28, 1969, when New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club located in Greenwich Village in NYC. The raid sparked a riot among bar patrons and neighborhood residents, as police roughly hauled employees and patrons out of the bar, leading to 6 days of protests and violent clashes with law enforcement outside the bar on Christopher Street, in neighboring streets, and in nearby Christopher Park. The Stonewall riots served as a catalyst for the gay rights movement in the United States and around the world. For the first time, our community pushed back against the aggressive police force, that had been terrorizing us for years. It was monumental, and because of television, the message spread like wildfire. We had incredible allies turn out, Black men and women who had been fighting for their rights for a long time, linked arms with our people because they saw how important that moment was. This doc is unique because it includes interviews with people who were there. Even if you think you know the story, you're going to learn something. Ties to the mafia, sex in meat trucks, and a secret book of gay bars. PBS has uploaded the documentary in full on their YouTube channel, and I'll have it linked below. Number 2, The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson, directed by David France, 2017. This doc discusses one of the key figures in the gay rights movement. It follows Victoria Cruz at the Anti-Violence Project, who is trying to solve Marsha's murder before she retires. The movie does a fantastic job educating us about both Marsha and another pillar of the community, Sylvia Rivera. We simply wouldn't be where we are today without the road that they paved. They sacrificed so much for the cause, for the chance to live free in peace. You can watch the film streaming on Netflix. Number 3, The Times of Harvey Milk, directed by Rob Epstein, 1984. Narrated by Harvey Fierstein, this documentary zooms in on the successful career and assassination of San Francisco's first elected gay supervisor. This man was an enigma. He loved hard, he dug deep into his community, and he never gave up. It's hard to imagine San Francisco as a place that isn't accepting of the queer community, but Harvey faced roadblock after roadblock and never let it get to him. You can catch this one on Max. Number 4, It's a Sin, directed by Peter Hoar, 2021. This Max original, quote, charts the thrilling and emotional journey of a tight-knit group of friends living in London during the 1980s, a decade forever changed by the AIDS crisis. Starring the lead singer of Years and Years, Ollie Alexander, as well as a cast that has electric chemistry, this show is a devastating peek into what living during the AIDS crisis was like. I've seen this acted out multiple ways now, most notably on Pose, but something about this show hit me so hard. Setting it in the UK allows us to get a unique perspective, and the performances are just so good. It never feels dull, it's never boring, and it always hits hard. It's a Sin proves that we have to continue making art like this so we don't forget our past. Number 5, Totally Fucked Up, directed by Gregg, Araki, 1993. 6 queer teenagers living in LA struggle to navigate relationships, mental health, and acceptance as they come to learn just how hard life is. This was my first Gregg Araki film, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it. Filmed partly on a camcorder, it feels oddly intimate, as if you know these people. It's filled with sex, humor, and feels like none of the movies that are being made today. If you end up liking this one, check out the next 2 in the trilogy, The Doom Generation and Mysterious Skin. You can either rent these films on Prime Video or catch them streaming on the Criterion channel. I've got 3 honorable mentions because, of course I do. Veneno, The Pass, and this year's Punch. I don't recommend surfing the high seas, but if it's the only way you can watch these films, do what you gotta do. But please, try to support the filmmakers if you can. Thank you to everyone who has fought for our rights. I am so proud to be gay, and I wouldn't be where I am today without you. Thank you. I'm going to end this video with a clip that I'm first going to set up. Jackie Goldberg, who is the Los Angeles School Board president, gives an extremely timely and moving speech that my mind keeps going back to. This is in reaction to the protests that have broken out recently in Southern California. Surprising, I know. Anti-LGBTQ protests that occurred after Jackie read the book, The Great Big Book of Families. In it, contained a line that mentioned some families have 2 mommies or 2 daddies, which is fact. It's reality. It's tangible. Jackie, an openly gay woman, responds to all of this in a way only a legend could. If you'd like to watch her speech in full, I've got it linked in the description below.
Nobody has to accept me. I'm not looking for your acceptance. But you better treat me the same way you treat everybody else. That's how we live in this country. You can think I'm the devil incarnate, but you better treat me like a decent human being because that's how I treat you, even though you don't believe that I have the right to exist. I am very tired of having young people and adults in the LGBT community hear 3 days of yelling and screaming about this. What do you think that did to every gay teacher, every gay custodian, every gay worker in this city, every gay kid? What do you think that did to them? It made them afraid. It made them afraid. How dare you make them afraid because you are? But if you can't love me, at least don't bug me. Don't threaten me. Don't make me afraid. Treat me with respect. I'll treat you with respect, whether we agree or not.
Thank you for watching this episode of Make Cinema. Check back here next week for a mega-packed episode where I'll talk No Hard Feelings, Asteroid City, Elemental, and possibly even past lives. Out this weekend in theaters is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'll have a review up of that as well sometime next week. Promise. Okay, until then. My name is Okoa, and may the power protect you always. I'll see you next time.